A very nasty man in his mid-30s once said,
"No matter how old you are as a guy, you would have to be severely mentally ill not to find a 15-year-old girl attractive."
What the hell are you talking about?
Hiya, my name is Anya, welcome to my channel and thank you for being here. I want to start off the video with something positive. Well, positive in my opinion. In my last video, I said that nothing good comes out of Florida, and I take it back, I take it all the way back. I stand corrected. Let me read this. October 2023. Death penalty for child rape goes into effect in Florida. Child rapists can now face execution for their crimes. The law specifically pertains to child victims under the age of 12. So real laws are put in place to truly punish the lowest of the low. Can we send him to Florida? I want to talk about dirty men. Nothing as crazy as we just read, but these are some real creeps. Okay, let's go. We're talking about some famous men and the young girls they've dated or had relations with. So essentially, they're victims. What's interesting is that the vast majority of the men suffered no consequences whatsoever. Adult men, some middle-aged men, hooking up with teen girls with no consequences. I'm pretty sure it's due to their status. Rich, famous and powerful. Some are worse than others, but all of them are bad. Most of the men committed statutory rape. Statutory rape is defined by statute as an act of sexual intercourse with a person under the age of consent, which is considered to constitute rape under the law, whether the person is willing or not. In statutory rape, there's usually no overt force or threat. Anyways, we all know about people like Woody Allen and Roman Polanski, or R. Kelly and Aaliyah, who was 12 when they met, and he was 24. They married when she was 15 and he was 27. He groomed her but suffered the consequences of all his disgusting actions, including urinating on a 14-year-old and assaulting her when he was in his 30s. Now he's pretending it never happened. We know about the PP video. You urinated on a kid on camera, but yet he's acting like a victim.
Y'all killing me with this. I gave y'all 30 years of my career.
Robert.
30 years of my career. Y'all trying to kill me. You killing. Shut up, bitch. Oh my God.
There are more famous men who had very problematic relationships. Although there are no videos of them assaulting their victims, nonetheless, having intercourse with a minor is, in my opinion, assault. Almost all of the men have something in common. They are from a different era, had power and fame, and said that the teens, their victims, were mature for their age. Just a side note, did you know that the age of consent is 11 in Nigeria, 12 in the Philippines, Mexico, and Angola? 14 years of age in countries like Brazil, Austria, Bulgaria, Estonia, Germany, Hungary, Italy, Portugal, and many others. In some countries, such as Saudi Arabia, Yemen, Libya, Iran, Pakistan, and Qatar, there is no age of consent, but people must be married. Why do you think they have child brides? June 2023, Japan raised the age of consent from 13 to 16. First man, Jerry Seinfeld. Maybe you thought that Michael Richards, who played Kramer, was the problematic one after his little tirade on stage back in 2006.
Shut up! 50 years ago you had you upside down with a fucking fork up your ass! You can talk your brain now, motherfucker! Roll out, he's a nigger! He's a nigger! He's a nigger!
Oh my God!
A nigger! Look, there's a nigger! Ooh. Ooh.
And that pretty much ended his career. However, in my opinion, Jerry is way more problematic than that buffoon of a comedian. Jerry, loved by so many and the star of the show named after him, Seinfeld. Back in the early 90s, when Jerry was 38, he met 17-year-old Susanna Lansdeen in Central Park. When he was dating the 17-year-old, he was mocked by the likes of Howard Stern, who asked him in a 1994 interview, "So you sit in Central Park and have a candy bar on a string and pull it when the girls come?"
Well, here we go, Janice. Little special song for Jerry Seinfeld. This should really fuck his New Year's up. You gotta get a sense of humor. Seinfeld's girl is 17 and innocent with double D's. He saw those breasts and flipped his lid for a real young busty high school kid.
So he was heckled a bit. But did he suffer any real consequences? No. Their relationship lasted only a few years, but Jerry has an interesting view on things, and no wonder he dated someone that young. Jerry later said, "I don't want my wife to work. I've had enough career for the both of us." And that makes sense. He doesn't care about his partner's independence or education. A tweet went viral in 2023. A former classmate of Susanna tweeted, "When I was in high school, 38-year-old Jerry Seinfeld was dating a girl in my year, and he picked her up from class during fourth period, and she got to skip Mr. Zelinsky's exam." Now, 17 isn't the worst. You're sort of close to adulthood, and it's very much the legal age in many countries. However, not where Jerry lived at the time, and him being 38 and her being 17 is illegal and really disgusting. I need a second shower after this video. Steven Tyler, frontman of the band Aerosmith, was a famous rock star at 26 when he met 16-year-old Julia backstage at one of their concerts. Julia was taken to the concert by a friend who was 24 and who told Julia to dress provocatively in order to get the band's attention, and it worked. Julia caught Tyler's eye and they soon became a couple. Listen to this. He actually became her legal guardian so that she could travel with him. Let that sink in. A 26-year-old was illegally dating a 16-year-old and had to become her legal guardian in order for her to travel with him. Now in 2024, that's called, trafficking. Human trafficking. That is so fucked up in so many ways. That's like adopting her in order to have access to her body. They were together for 3 years and she lived and traveled with him. She was devoured by the lifestyle of sex, drugs, and rock and roll. It was a toxic relationship that ended in a mess. But Tyler wrote in his 2011 memoir, "She was 16, she knew how to nasty, and there wasn't a hair on it. Her parents fell in love with me, signed a paper over for me to have custody so I wouldn't get arrested if I took her out of state. With my bad self being 26 and she barely old enough to drive and sexy as hell, I just fell madly in love with her. She was a cute, skinny little tomboy dressed up as Little Bo Peep." That shit he wrote is so out of pocket. It is horrendous and really tough to read. Maybe she knew how to do the nasty, but you're the nasty one. Mind you, he was 63 when he wrote that rubbish. You sick fuck. Allegedly, he pressured her to have an abortion while sniffing coke next to her in the hospital. Elvis Presley, also known as Elvis the Pelvis. In 1959, when Elvis was 24 and already a superstar, he met 14-year-old Priscilla in Germany where he was deployed. She was in the 9th grade. Count them, 9. And how they met is horrific and absolutely awful. While she was out with her younger brother, a service member by the name Curry, a man in his mid-20s, saw Priscilla and asked if he could take her to meet Elvis. This man is so fucked up, this Curry dude. Her father gave his approval for a visit, so that's 2 adult men that let her down at the tender age of 14. Priscilla wrote in 1985 for People magazine, in her own words, what happened. She traveled to his home and she immediately captured the star's attention, even when she admitted that she was only in the 9th grade. Remember, he's 24. As Curry led me over to him, Elvis stood up and smiled. "Well," he said, "what have we here? What are you, about a junior or senior in high school?" I blushed and said nothing, not willing to reveal that I was only in the 9th grade. "Well," he persisted, "9th." Elvis looked confused. "9th what?" "Grade," I whispered. "9th grade," he said and started laughing. "Why, you're just a baby." Creepy much? And then he apparently serenaded her all evening, trying to get her attention, as if it's difficult to impress a 14-year-old. Among the bangers were Are You Lonesome Tonight? Priscilla thought she'd never hear from him again. Well, alas, the human trafficker, the main pimp of this story, Curry, was asked by Elvis to bring Priscilla back to the house, and her simp parents let her. On the 3rd date, he kissed Priscilla. As he spoke, he was smoothing my hair. "I swear I'll never do anything to harm you. I'll treat you just like a sister." "Oh!" Standing there, looking into his eyes, I was drawn to him almost against my will. I believed him. Of course you believed him. You were 14. Not many years ago, you believed in Santa Claus. They went to his room. He was cuddling her and talking. When it was time for her to go, he kissed her goodbye. My first real kiss. He broke away saying, "We have plenty of time, little one." He kissed my forehead and sent me home. Groomer. Groomer. Ugh. By the way, she started to fail in school, but her parents were charmed by this man, well, his fame and money, so they let the grooming continue. Elvis told his friend Rex Mansfield that Priscilla was young enough that I can train her in any way I want. Sounds about Red Pill Manosphere to me. He took her to America and they would eventually get married. Honorable mentions before we continue: Luc Besson and Don Johnson. Luc Besson, a famous French film director who's behind movies like Leon and The Fifth Element, met 15-year-old Maven when he was 32. They got married, and soon after meeting, Maven gave birth to their daughter at the age of 16. They would divorce in 1997 when 38-year-old Besson became involved with 21-year-old Mila Jovovich, and they would marry the same year. He has a type, and that type is called younger. Much, much younger. Too young. Don Johnson. In 1972, Don Johnson from Miami Vice was 22 when he met his future wife, Melanie Griffith, on a movie set when she was only 14. Her mother, Tippi Hedren, let her move in with him when she was only 15 and he was 23. How do you, as a mother, let your 15-year-old daughter move in with someone that's 23? You handed your young teen daughter to a grown-ass man on a silver platter. That's so fucking wrong in so many ways. What the fuck is wrong with you? Don said about Melanie, I was skeptical because of her age, but she was more woman than most of the girls I'd been going out with. Cool story, bro. Mr. Johnson proposed to the teenager on her 18th birthday. How romantic. They would later on get divorced, but not before having a daughter, the absolutely stunning Dakota Johnson. This is a nobody, and you're probably like, Doug who? Doug is an American actor. He was 51 when he married 16-year-old Courtney. They married only 1 week into knowing each other. And since you have to be 18 to get married in Nevada, her parents had to give consent to marry off their 16-year-old to a 51-year-old man. I can't imagine what the parents were thinking. Courtney has since divorced Doug after 9 years of marriage, but she had a really tough time with him. In a podcast 2 years ago, she said that she was exploited and groomed. She also said she understood why the public had been so critical of her mom.
My mom has always been a very protective mother. I mean, just going back and kind of trying to shine a little light on my backstory a little bit. My mom has gotten a lot of hate, and I understand why. I mean, if I ever have a baby and I'm raising that baby, I from my own experiences, I would never sign my kid off ever to an adult man, 34 years old. Like, there's just no way that would happen. But I think that she thought she was doing something that was going to make me happy, truthfully. I really believe that.
Her story is horrific and gut-wrenching, filled with emotional, physical, and sexual abuse. In the podcast, Courtney goes into some shocking detail about being a virgin on her wedding night, how Doug groomed her and gave her alcohol, and she also talks about her father leaving her. Her mother is a piece of doo-doo. I think Courtney's mother is attention-seeking and a clout demon. She even went on a hobo tour talking about the ins and outs of her daughter's relationship, talking about how Doug wanted to have a threesome with her and Courtney.
We would run errands together once in a while, and I cannot exactly tell you, because it could be out of context, I can't tell you what we were discussing, but I do know that he had shared with me in one of our errand running trips that his fantasy, his fantasy is, and he thinks about it a lot, that to have Courtney and me in the same bed with him, and that the reason being is so I could teach her how to please him. And I just thought that was just so bizarre and so weird, and I was just so disappointed that he said that to me. I just felt terrible that that's what he had been thinking, because I had been trying to keep those two together. And then I think that there were times when they were really getting along and times that they weren't, and I didn't want to be the person that a deliverer of bad news. I mean, that's a terrible thing to come tell your daughter that. And would she believe me? I don't know. I mean, I don't know. I didn't know what to do. I just was very disappointed and wished that I had never even heard that. It was very, very sad for me to hear him say something like that.
You were disappointed. That's the word you're using. That thing is one of the most disgusting mothers I've seen. She's talking about disappointment. Disappointment is ordering food and then forgetting your extra ketchup, you dumb crypt keeper looking bitch. If your story is true, you should have taken your daughter and ran to the other side of the fucking world, you ugly, fugly whore. Instead, you let that freak show continue. You let him molest your young daughter. How could you? I know. You were jealous and envious. Yeah, you were jealous and wanted a piece of the pie, the spotlight, the fame. Bitch, you're too old for him. He clearly likes kids. Now to one that no one seems to talk about, Paul Walker. This beautiful man is Paul Walker. Don't let that pretty face fool you. Paul Walker died in an accident back in 2013 when he was 40 years old. He's still revered and loved by his fans. Well, he had a girlfriend at the time of his passing, Jasmine, who was 23. Thing is, they met when he was 33 and she was 16, and apparently no one reacted. Imagine your 33-year-old friend rocking up with a 16-year-old. Like, do you have any shame? If there was any reporting done on them, they were portrayed as this happy couple. And the way he was open about it, and this wasn't that long ago. I read this on some entertainment site. Walker was a kind-hearted playboy who dated some famous faces in Hollywood. But Jasmine was different. She was not a Hollywood starlet. No, she was a 16-year-old high school student. Jasmine is around 33 today, the same age as Paul Walker was when they met. Would it be okay if she dated a 16-year-old boy in 2024? Now to the worst of the worst. Bill Wyman, the Rolling Stones bass player, was 47 when he met 13-year-old Mandy Smith. Yes, 13. They started a sexual relationship when she was only 14. So statutory rape, since the age of consent in the UK was 16 at the time. Wyman wrote in his 1990 autobiography, quote, "She took my breath away. She was a woman at 13, end quote. Oh dear God. Now, is Mandy a very mature-looking 13-year-old? Yes, she is. Can you help initial attraction? No, most of us can't. But as soon as you hear that she's only 13, you back up. You back the hell up. You're nearly 50. 13, that's a child. How can you date a 13-year-old when you're 47? And a rough 47 at that. Not that it matters, I just had to put it out there. When they met, he told her that he knew modeling agencies and that he could help her get her career started. Again, she was only 13, and again, textbook grooming. They married when she was 18 and he was 52. The marriage lasted only 2 years. Do you understand how bad and sick of a person you are, and the only reason you got away with it is because you're famous, you nasty, nasty, dirty old man? And his victim Mandy said exactly what happens in these cases. They ruin childhoods. She said in an interview back in 2010 that the age of consent should be 18 and that she was nowhere near mature enough to make those choices. And what happened to her has affected her profoundly. She said, "You can never get that part of your life, your childhood back. I never could. If it happened today, he would be absolutely vilified by the press. He'd be in jail." She also said that if her father had been in the picture, that situation would never have happened. Mandy, I'm not so sure about that, considering how many fathers in this world are okay with pimping out their daughters to famous men, rich men, poor men, old men, men with a few extra goats, or men with multiple wives. Prosecutors were going to charge him decades later, but nothing happened. And why do you think nothing happened? Power, power, power. Media has played a huge part and been complicit in exploiting young women, as if they have no value about their bodies. Remember late 90s, Britney Spears, and how she was hounded for her body and sex life. Let's look at an interview she did at 17 and the question this dirty old man asked her. Try not to cringe.
There's one subject we didn't discuss. What was that? Everyone's talking about it.
What?
Well, your breasts.
My breasts.
You seem to get furious when a talk show host comes up with this subject. Okay, in general, what do you think about breast implants? Just in general.
Well, I think if that's what you want to do and that would make you happy, then I see nothing wrong with it. But I haven't done that. But I think it's sad that people, think I've done that because that makes them want to go out. And, some of the fans that look up to me, they either think bad of me or they may want to go out and do that. But that's not my fault because the press started that.
Asked by journalists if her breasts are fake or real when she was 17. Not only is it gross that this balding man is asking a 17-year-old girl about her body, but he's doing it in front of children. This is crossing so many ethical boundaries. What about that Rolling Stone cover and the pics of her at 17? Take a real look and imagine that that's your 17-year-old daughter, sister, or cousin. It's not okay. And I'll talk about boys being traumatized in a future video. Also, you can say what you want about adult women. Most of us can handle ourselves. We dress how we dress, we act like we act, knowing full well what that brings. Kids and teens don't. Today, if some nasty old man or older man tried to date a younger person, boy or girl, it wouldn't be as easy as before. We have tons of shows on YouTube where people are catching predators trying to get with children and getting the police involved. And those decoys are oftentimes older than 13 or 14 and the men are still vilified. Remember, some of these stories are recent. And I hope that these men are somehow held accountable now in 2024 because truth is they fucked kids. Thank you for watching, take care, and I'll see you next time. Bye.